Hello everybody and welcome to something a little bit different. What we're going to attempt today is a no deaths run for the 4th Age Total War Dominion of Man. What I mean by no deaths is no faction eliminations. Whether by my hand or by any other faction's hand, there can be no faction eliminations during this run. If a faction is wiped out, the run is over. We're going to be playing Rohan for several reasons. Rohan is positioned pretty centrally on the map, of course, in Middle-earth. Rohan also has the benefit of being able to put together strong cavalry armies, which can move swiftly wherever they are needed. And Rohan in this mod has a very strong economy, so it can support lots of armies that we decide to plant all over the map just to protect the other factions that we need to protect. Of course, we won't be able to get everywhere from the very beginning. There are factions that I'm a little worried about, such as Far Harad, which is a 3-province faction to start down in the southeastern portion of the map, and Khand, which is also on the eastern side. Starts off with a few more provinces, but often is forced into a horde and could be eliminated by its larger and more aggressive neighbors. Another one that often gets eliminated early is the Chiefdom of Northrun. This is also a little bit outside of our sphere of influence. Harondor is another one that tends to fall early, but I'm thinking we're close enough to that we might be able to get down and intervene. So we're going to have to get creative, gifting factions, provinces, making protectorates, getting our armies in everybody's face to make sure that they're not going to eliminate a faction, even a faction that doesn't appear as playable, such as the Shire. So that is the goal for this run. We're also going to be playing on the recommended campaign difficulty of Decidedly Tookish, which is equivalent to medium, and battle difficulty Bull Roaring, which is equivalent to hard. So let's jump in. All right, here we are in Rohan with quite a lot of settlements and a decent starting treasury of 14,000 Mirian. Our economy can boom pretty early, but a first stage is to get our armies together and decide which way we're going to go first. We can see already that we're looking at a projected profits of over 9,000 Mirian. So even from the start, without doing anything, we're looking quite good in terms of our economy. However, one thing I do tend to do early is lower taxes everywhere. This is going to help my king's authority. Having low taxes in all of your settlements will improve that authority stat. Here's our king right here, and his authority is not looking too well. This is turn 1, so the actual stats and traits are going to trigger once I hit the end turn button. But he'll need a little bit of his boost in his authority to help ensure that all of his followers are nice and loyal to him. Still, even with taxes lowered everywhere, we're looking at making over 8,000 this coming turn, and that will actually improve as we take some of our inept governors out of their settlements. So let's get the armies together. Okay, so we have queued up a little bit of building and a lot of troop training, and so now we're just in the negatives in terms of what we can expect for profits next turn. That's actually fine. In terms of our armies that I plan to use in the field, we've got some forces out of the Hornburg here, not much. Some axes of the Mark, we've got bowmen of Rohan, some levies, and more importantly, these shields of the Mark, probably one of our better, if not best, infantry units. Next to Edoras, we've got the King and Heir, both out of Edoras and Dunharrow, with some Meduseld Guard. These are a fairly unique infantry unit, very strong, of course. Some Horse Archers, as well as some lighter Rohan Spears. Riders of the Mark, one of our iconic units with spear and sword, and very important Rittermark Spears, effective against armor, and just a really powerful charge unit for us. We're, of course, going to need to be augmenting these forces, but we can get them together, and I think we want to start moving into the west initially. That's because, as you would expect, we are at war with Dunland at the beginning of the campaign. That's the only faction we're at war with currently, although we will almost certainly be at war with Adunabar fairly soon. But for now, I think the Reunited Kingdom and Adunabar war is something we can ignore. We will be getting into that theater pretty soon, but what we want to do is sort of secure our western flank. In my experience, Dunland tends to be a bit of a pushover when you're playing Rohan if you hit them hard enough, fast enough. So that's what we're going to do. We'll go over and set up right, let's see. Well, this settlement here, Dunfrecka, is on our victory conditions. It's one that we will need to take. It'll be pretty well disposed to our rule, and so I think we would do well to get right down here and aim for that pretty early. We do have an emissary ready here, and so I think we'll send him down into the southeast. Here we've discovered Calenhad. This is an Adunabar settlement, but it's one that the Reunited Kingdom will want to get back. So this is not a settlement that I like to take. We want to move this emissary down here and just keep an eye on the region. Now you'll notice that we're also benefiting from line of sight along with Reunited Kingdom. We also have line of sight with the Elven faction and with the Dwarves as well. And this is because of just the way faction mechanics work in the mod. Basically, we're set up in an alliance with the Reunited Kingdom that is similar to what you can see in the vanilla Rome Total War between the Roman factions. That is, it's a fairly unbreakable alliance, and we sort of share line of sight. The Elves and another off-map faction are also in an alliance, and the way those alliances interact basically means that we get a bunch of visibility, which is going to be very, very helpful indeed. But we'll get our emissary down to the south. I want to keep an eye especially on Harandor, because this tends to be an early elimination from Harad. So we want to get an army together fairly quickly, and that's what we're doing everywhere else. We're training pretty much everything we can. Woldburg cannot train any military, but we're getting another emissary to send over into the east or north. We're working on a trader here to help the population growth primarily. And in other settlements, we've got basically all the cav we can get, whether it's just these light Rohan spears or something more substantial like these javelin-bearing Rohan riders. So to get that southern army started, I've taken out a couple of family members from Antwaid and Woldburg. So we've got one guy here who is a competent governor and a competent commander. Maybe he'll end up garrisoning some town in Harandor to keep an eye on things down there. And we've got another family member just for field duty, essentially. He's not particularly good at anything, but it's good to have someone who can recruit mercenaries or split an army up, that type of thing. I think that's everything we can do at the moment, so let's end the season and see what the AI does. Okay, we got our first notification of wars. This is an entirely expected one, however. The Dwarves are at war with the Chiefdom of Rune and the Chiefdom of Northrun. They're basically following their allies Dale into those wars. The Dwarves themselves, though, when they are played by the AI, are fairly passive on the campaign map, so we don't have to fear that they're going to eliminate anybody. But it does mean that these two factions might be under pressure from a few different sections, so we will want to keep an eye on that. To that end, I think I will go ahead and train another emissary right out of Woldburg, and we'll send them around pretty much everywhere. I want to have emissaries all over the map so we can do deals, we can get map information, we can trade settlements potentially. So we'll send these guys up into the northeast. Now, although we don't have perfect line of sight up here, we can see what Dale can see, and so we can just watch and see if they're going to be putting too much pressure under Northrun or something. We're here approaching Dunfrecca, which seems to be fairly unguarded. Not sure if the armies are hiding in the woods somewhere or if they've moved off into the west to capture some of this territory. But let's go ahead and put it under siege. We'll build a few rams, and I think I will pick up the mercenaries here. These are nothing particularly special, but they do have fairly low upkeep costs and a bit of versatility with javelins and axes. We do have to keep an eye on these guys as well, because, of course, the border between us and Adunabar is, well, it's just this little stream here, the Mering stream, and so if we see these large armies poised to head into the west, they could cause us a lot of damage. Let's get another emissary to keep our eye on things down around here. We're going to use emissaries as kind of like cheap spies for the time being. And it looks like we have our first battle of the run. Here's Dunland attacking us right outside of Dunfrecca. Fairly predictable. Inside the settlement, they've got a family member. He's commanding a unit of Eisenmarch Guard. This is a unique bodyguard unit available for Dunland in this settlement only. And they've got a few low-tier units accompanying them, but the larger army has some more interesting things. We've got these frightening wolf hunters with javelins and war cry. These Dunlending hillmen are armor-piercing. And then they've got some pretty tough riders. Riders of the Eisenmarch, looks like 3 units of those. Well, we'll see how we'll do. Alright, well the game has given us at least a fairly open field to fight on, but not really favorable terrain. We've got the main army coming from over there, which is essentially going to be uphill from us. And since we can't really get an uphill advantage, I thought the best thing to do is to set up as close to this settlement as possible. We can send our cavalry quickly down there to deal with those reinforcing garrison units, and then we'll just send our infantry right here to deal with the approaching main army. Yeah, so this should not be a problem. Alright, those spearmen are already attacking. We're just going to jump right in with our bodyguard. Our king dies under the first spear. You know, I expected that was going to happen, quite honestly. He is a very old man at the beginning of the campaign. So our heir, we just want to make sure we don't lose him. Send in the other cavalry here. I'm not sure if we're going to kill enough of these guys. And it looks like he got away. Shoot. So we're not going to get the settlement here, but what we can do at least is eliminate this army. So let's see what it looks like when they approach us. Well, now that the king is dead, we have no reason not to throw in his 47-man strong bodyguard unit, because since we're not going to get these guys after the battle anyway, we'll see how far they can carry this fight, but we're going to wait until we can at least get some ranged shots in. We do have our very nice Meduseld guard here with us, and they're in a shield wall formation, which I forgot was an option for them, so that's very nice indeed. And we do have to, I think, keep most of a watch on these riders, because they are fairly strong and can do some damage to our infantry line. All right, our bowmen are already doing their work. Looks like the enemy is approaching. Let's get our javelins up there. They're essentially mercenary fodder anyway, and we'll send our riders right in to the Dunlending hillmen. Run the axemen up to support. Shields of the March are also throwing spears. That's going to foul up the riders of the Eisenmarch's charge. Well, so does the Dunlending mercenaries there. Let's throw in our Meduseld guard as well, and we'll get our bowmen around the back. And now we can throw in our heir, I think, with the other light cavalry. We've driven away these units pretty effectively. We'll just keep the main body of cav going. But on the right, we're doing far less... There he goes. We got the enemy general. But we're doing a lot worse over here. Those Eisenmarch riders have done a lot of damage. Let's send our heir over to deal with them. And I think partly, again, it does have to do with the fear effect of a lot of these Dunlending units, as well as the javelins. They're just very, very strong. Send them after the bowmen. And over here we got the Eisenmarch riders on the run. Those levies are running away. That's not really that much of a problem. We've got the Dunlendings running elsewhere. Wolf Hunters are cornered between our levies as well as our axes. They're winning, but we're going to be supported by Meduseld Guard, and I think they'll be breaking fairly soon. But let's bring our riders over here. The general can do a lot of damage to this knot of resistance. And we can bring all of those guys back as well. All right, let's hit those Dunlendish axemen with our Riders of the King's House. This is the heir. Very nice. Got a big rout going. And looks like one more charge, and we should have this wrapped up. There we go. I'll clean this up and I'll see you back on the campaign map. So, yes, we've got good news and we've got bad news for the people back at home. Although we managed to eliminate a large Dunlending army, the king is dead. Herubrand of the Fold. So that is unfortunate indeed, but his heir, Baldur, is going to take over for him. Baldur himself is already seasoned, unfortunately. You start off as Rohan with a couple of very old royal family members, and so pretty soon he's probably going to kick off as well, and we'll need to pass the chain on to someone else. Dunfrecka, though, we did not manage to take. We'll have to assault that, and so I think that will be something we deal with fairly shortly here. Oh, and we also have war between Dorwanian and Northrun. This is not good. Two of the smallest factions on the map going to war, and so again, we have to make sure none of them is eliminated. It looks like Dorwanian was the aggressor there, as is often the case. So what Dorwanian may do is head up to take one or two of the settlements of Northrun, and if they can prevent Dale from pressing east, that could actually be a good thing. But we'll have to get some spies over there. And soon is now. We are assaulting Dunfrecka. There's not too much resistance inside the walls. There are some tribal spearmen up here, just 28. And inside the settlement, we've got another unit of either spears or axes, along with their bodyguard, the Eisenmarch guard. Looks like he's heading back to the town center. So it should be a fairly unopposed entry. What I plan to do is get all the cavalry in and follow up with the infantry once we get through these gates.
The enemy gate is down! Our battering ram has done its work! Spearmen! Our soldiers have captured the walls! Now is the time to press on and capture this place!
Alright, the gates are open. We've got the towers here. We're sending our other troops in. And so we'll try to stop these spearmen from taking back those gates while we get our other units inside the city. And those spearmen are already broken. Excellent. We'll just leave our levies there to finish that fight while we get our men towards the center of the city. We do have some archers, so we should be able to draw them out, so it won't necessarily be a slog in the plaza itself, hopefully. And up in the town center, it's even easier than I thought. They've got 8 Dunlandish axemen and just a few Eisenmarch guard. I think we're just going to go ahead and actually throw everybody in. We're going to take a few losses to the javelins there, but we should overpower them. And now after the axemen. And there we go. Dunfrecka is down. 1 settlement added to our kingdom. And not too many losses.
Victory! Settlement captured!
And it looks like there is still a field army of Dunland. That's not surprising. They have a lot of settlements to the north. And their units are extremely cheap, meaning they can train a ton of them. So we have a lot of fights ahead of us yet. But meanwhile, for the settlement itself, I think we'll just occupy. There's not too many people here. We can lower the taxes. We'll benefit from the settlement's population. And we can destroy some of the buildings that aren't going to help us, like these mustering fields and animal fights. Because Dunfrecka is a chief city, we can also retrain the mercenaries local to the area, and I will queue up another emissary as well. It also looks like we have some good news on our eastern front. It looks like that large army outside Calenhat has moved over back towards the Anduin region, so that could be good. Of course, it might not be good for the Reunited Kingdom, but if we need to help them, we're in a pretty good position to do so. Interesting. Dunland wants a ceasefire. You know what? I'm actually okay with that, at least for the moment. Maybe we can get a little bit of money out of them. $10,000. Haha, they'll do it. All right, so 10,000 gold. Let's see if they'll pay for trade as well. 5,000 for trade. That might be a bit excessive. They want 1,100. Let's just change that to 1,000. Okay, fine. We'll just do trade. That'll get us a little bit of extra money, and then it'll also allow us to change our attention to the east. That just about doubled our income, the deal that we just made for peace with Dunland, so that's very welcome. That'll also allow us to do a bit of building, but importantly some retraining, because our units here are looking a little beat up. I think what I'll do is take out the ruler. I don't want him to be the governor here, so we'll take him out with a bunch of forces that we're going to get retrained. And it's a very good thing that we got a ceasefire with Dunland. Otherwise, we would have just been ambushed. We walked right past this hidden army of Dunlands with some very nasty stuff. Tribal pikes, Dunlandish bowmen, tribal spearmen. Have to remember to be careful of that. But they didn't ambush us because we're not at war. So that was actually kind of a relief. Let's add some support if we can get away with it. In terms of these cavalry units, we can't actually get there, but they'll at least be able to reinforce if a fight breaks out. We'll leave the infantry here and just kind of hope for the best. And interestingly, I can see Harondor flexing its muscle, kind of, by sending some troops into Ithilien. I don't think they're at war with anybody at the moment. No, so other than the rebels. But it's hard to see that they could accomplish much up here. Maybe they're just waiting for one of these forces to clear out so they can grab Emin Arnin for themselves. I have seen that happen. If so, that would be great. It'd be nice to have a strong Harondor to help keep the balance of power. And since we are looking so good in terms of income, I think I'm going to go ahead and spend it all on this Marshal's Muster Hall in Edoras. It's 15,000 Mirian to build, but it will allow us to train Rittermark spears, which we otherwise can't get just yet. Here at the beginning of the next turn, we can see that we're experiencing a bit of unhappiness in Dunfreka. We're going to get this Homeland Dominion building queued up, and that should help a bit. It will also help with land tax, giving us a lot of income per turn, helping us with some mismanagement. So that'll be a nice build. And now we do have a war between Harondor and Harad. And so it begins. Now, Harondor looks to be the aggressor here. Let's take a look at our emissary in the area. Yeah, this is still in Harondor's hands. But Ur is under siege by Harondor. So that's great news. Harondor being on the aggressive again is very good. It means they're less likely to fall quickly. But they don't have a very strong army down here. Hopefully they've got something else waiting in the wings. Well, if they don't have anything waiting in the wings, we certainly do. We've got just about a full stack here that is assembled. Now, this is mostly low-tier cavalry, but we should be able to do some stuff with this. So let's send it down to the south. I think we need an army in the south, so it's time to do it. We're not at war with the Dunabar, and that's as I would like it. I don't want to get ambushed by these guys. We did just get a transgression warning from them. But, hey, what are you going to do? We'll just keep moving on by. We've got an emissary in the area to just look out for any enemy forces that might be blocking us. But our goal is to get this army down somewhere around here and see how we can help by maintaining the balance. We could get some mercenaries, but this is just infantry. They would just slow us down. And Harondor is approaching us with alliance, trade rights, and map information. You know what? I think I'll take it. be nice to see where all their settlements are at least. The trade isn't going to do us any good, but maybe at some point it will, actually. So, interestingly, the Reunited Kingdom has also signed a ceasefire with Dunland. That is great news, keeps the Western Front quiet. One concern that I would have with the campaign is that the Reunited Kingdom, if they get strong, could be the cause of a lot of my problems. We need to make sure that no faction gets eliminated, and we won't be able to stop the Reunited Kingdom from eliminating factions with a nice letter. So we would have to potentially go to war to protect a faction like Dunland. But if they're at peace now, then we don't have to worry about that. And we've got a bit better sense of the situation in the northeast. It looks like Dorwanian is being fairly aggressive, getting an army right near Gargal. Now, it looks smaller than the force of Northrun that's in the city, but Northrun's forces can be kind of weak relative to the other Northmen in the area, so they may not hold out very long, and I may need to think about repositioning my army. Sending it down into the south might not be necessary, although it looks like Harondor has sadly failed to take which means that they can expect a large Haradrian reprisal fairly soon. Let's keep our scout around their southeastern settlement of Rad Harnen and just see what we might need to do in terms of intervening. And now in the north I see a Haradrian army. Very, very odd. Well, let's keep moving our forces down towards the south. It may take a little while to move through zones of control. So we'll get our guy right on the bridge here. That's kind of a blocking move, but hopefully no one will attack us while we just stand here. So I've retrained a lot of these troops that were in the Dunfrecka assault, and we've added to them with some other light forces, some horse archers, some Rohan spears, and so on, and we're moving them into the northeast under our king. The idea is to supplement these with other troops as we move through the Wold, but we'll also need to think of another family member we can use to lead this force. But I think it is definitely time to get some men into this region, because as we can see, Gargal is under siege, and even if Dorwanian fails, there's another army of Dale right on Northrun's territory, preparing to move, presumably. So we need to get up there. So we've trained some archers from Hornburg, Edoras, and Aldburg. These are the three most militarily developed settlements we start with. And so we're sending them into Dunfrecka. Otherwise, looks like we're ready to move our king into the northeast. We do have a few more cavalry to attach to his army.
Captain, onward! Joining forces! March! No more moves, sir. Orders? Sir! Captain? Yes, Captain! Captain?
There, and that's almost a full stack. Now again, we'll want to find another family member. Hopefully his son will come of age fairly soon. But this leaves us room to grab a mercenary, which are actually fairly plentiful in the Brownlands. So it might be good to add this and this to our kingdom. Fairfield, honestly, though, can wait. The elves are not going to take it. And we might want to get mid-deeping just so we can easily project our power further into the east and northeast. Looks like that siege of Gargal is still undergoing. Fairly good news, I guess. In the south, status quo remains here. Harad still in possession of Harondor still in possession of Rad Harnen. Yes, we have a coming of age. Aldor of Edoras. He is in Woldburg. Great, so that's perfectly convenient for us. I think what we'll do is we'll just nip him across the border here of the Brownlands, and he'll pick up some mercenaries. Rovanian Ranger mercenaries. Okay, I was expecting a little more, honestly, but these are the best mercenaries in the region. So we'll definitely grab them. That gets him the Expert Treasure Seeker Ancillary. Ooh, a bit of trade income in addition to plunder bonus. And he actually could be a great governor. I don't know exactly where we want to put him, but probably not. We'll probably not waste him on mid-deeping. That's not a very good settlement. Well, let's go ahead and put those mercenaries with the king. Meanwhile, we'll just kind of hold him back, I guess, and we'll add him wherever seems most reasonable. It does look like a Dunabar is heading over here. You know, honestly, I might let them have this If we can send our main army into the northeast to establish something, maybe we'll take Dorwanian for ourselves, take Belligant. And as is often the case, we're running into zone of control problems in Ithilien. There's just a lot of armies around here and not a lot of space. Reunited Kingdom still attempting to take Minas Ithil, and we've got a stubborn Haradrian army just kind of standing around, probably looking to attack Minas Anor or something. Harad has allied with Adunabar, so there probably won't be any conflicts there. But maybe they'll move out of the way and we'll be able to get down south. It's not super pressing right now, but there is a small force of Harad just outside of Harandor's settlement. It'd be good to get down here before things get too dramatic. More bad news. Khand and Far Harad are at war with each other. Okay, that'll be a tough one to manage. It looks like Khand is the aggressor, which is not the best. Far Harad is not a horde-capable faction, which means that if they come under pressure and they lose their if they lose all their settlements, they're done. And they only have 3 to start. Not sure if they've expanded at all, but maybe it's time to bring an emissary down further to see how things look with them. And fortunately, we did get out of the zone of control problems here, so we can bring our men down into the south. Here's an army of Harandor, not a real problem. We can just move down here. Since they're our ally, they're not exerting any zone of control problems for us. We should be able to move on through. Maybe, though, it would be a good idea to see if we can get military access. I'm not sure if it's worth it, honestly, but we'll maybe give it a shot with our emissary.
Out of move, sir. March!
And yes, Gargol has sadly fallen to Dorwanian. The nice thing about this is that it does cut off Dale from progressing further against Northrun. And if we can sneak in here and capture Belligant for ourselves, maybe make Dorwanian our protectorate, we will have secured a fairly nice part of the map and help protect Northrun at least from these western factions. And it looks like the Reunited Kingdom was unable to take Minas Ithil. Great news, honestly. We want to maintain sort of a status quo around here. We don't want the Reunited Kingdom getting too strong and going nuts, rampaging all over the map. We also don't want Adunabar getting too strong and doing the same thing. So as long as they can kind of maintain that neutrality, or at least Cold War, then we're doing pretty good. I think we might be able to get our emissary. Nope, he's blocked by this host of Harad. So we may just have to risk trespassing, unless we can find another person we can get in touch with. And we're unable to do that, so let's just march on in. This is probably going to cause a bit of a transgression message. Let's see what Harandor has to say about it. Okay, nothing yet. Now in this region we do have some strong cavalry mercenaries that we could potentially pick up. 480 per turn upkeep, that's pretty expensive, even compared to some of our high tier cav, so I think I'll hold off. And as we pass by Mid-Deeping, I can see that it is still held by rebels. Again, that's a good sign that Adunabar is not feeling strong enough to take it yet. And we can see some action happening at the ford of the river Harnan. This is the only crossing of this river right here, so this is another choke point for us. We'll have to move through. I think I'm going to position myself right down here. That way we can support if Harad decides to attack Harandor. We can at least offer our assistance on the battlefield. That might be an interesting event. Moving off into the south, I can see that Far Harad is still in control of at least some of its starting territories. That's a good sign. Not seeing any other indications of devastation around Far Harad's capital, so that is also good. Maybe the fighting is just taking place up in the north somewhere. So as we're approaching Rovanian's territory here, I think it might be a good idea to try for an alliance. Rovania typically is not in a position to eliminate any other factions, really. Although they can get fairly strong, there's just no other factions in the area that they can usually threaten. On the other hand, they're usually on the receiving end of problems from Dale, so I'd like to offer them my aid if possible. Let's see if we can get an alliance at least. Okay. And let's see if we can get military access. I will give them, actually, 5,000 for that. And they're going to say no. I didn't do that quite right. What you have to do is first offer military access, often with some money attached, and then sometimes on the next turn ask for military access, again with money attached. So it's a very expensive process. We do have an alliance with them. Hopefully that'll keep them from hating us too badly while we trespass here briefly. We'll see. Interesting. Adunabar approaching us with an offer of trade rights. I think I'm going to have to refuse. I'd rather not take any chance that would upset the reunited kingdom. I believe trading with the enemy of your ally is generally not a good sign, and so I don't want to risk that. So Harad is stubbornly hanging out on this bridge. There may have been a fight. I might have missed what was going on. Maybe Harondor attacked them and I was one tile away, not able to reinforce that fight. So I'm going to get right next to them. If Harondor wants to come in and start an attack, I'll support them. And we get the old transgression message from Rovanian for trespassing on their territory. Well, they'll just have to deal with it. They can have us as an ally or they can have us as an enemy, I guess. But we've got to move our king through so we can set up somewhere in the northeast here. I can already see that Dorwanian is setting its armies along the borders of Northrun's territory, and we can't have that. Oh, awesome. So we are going to have a battle, it seems, with Harondor initiating and us showing up as reinforcements against Salama of a Haradrian army. Fortunately, no Mumakil here. It looks like they've seen some action based on the unit size of some of these units. Only 4 Palace Guard remaining in this unit. They've got some Corsairs, a few archers. Should be an interesting fight. Harondor with 219 men. I think they wouldn't have attempted that attack if I wasn't standing right there to give my support. But hey, I'll take the opportunity to help Harondor and bust through this ford so I can get into the south and east and start monitoring things there so we can protect the other factions. When we return, folks, we will fight this battle with our allies Harondor against Harad. That gets us another enemy, but it also gets us access to the south. I hope you'll join me for that. Until then, take care.